Today we're going to be mixing secondary colours, but I just wanted to go over the basics of the colour wheel. There are three primary colours: blue, yellow and red. And the secondary colours are in between each colour. So blue and yellow make green, red and yellow make orange, and red and blue make purple. And you think simple? That's great. And it is. But what you don't think about is the colour mixing. And how do you mix the right blue with the right yellow to get the right green, the right red with the yellow to get the right orange? Because it's not just blue. You've got all these different blues, from cerulean to indanthrine to cobalt, ultramarine. Look at all these. These are just a sample: cadmium red, which is the orangey red, alizarin red. That's a purpley red. Can you see the difference between the reds? That's an orangey red, that's a purpley red. That's cerulean, that's a turquoisey blue, and that's a deeper purpley blue. Again, with the yellows: cadmium yellow, lemon yellow, raw sienna, yellow ochre. Where's that? Lemon yellow again. But can you see the difference? Again, this is why we're going to actually mix today on a chart to actually look what different blues and reds make different purples, and how do you actually pick between what's going to make the best colours. The reason why we are colour mixing today and why it's so important is because when you're looking at a picture like you want to actually have a look at the different variations in oranges. Look how much more, that's clearly got more cadmium red in it. But this, and so I would go for cadmium yellow and cadmium red, because you know that's a really bright orange. This, for example, is a softer yellow here. So you could pick one of these. This is a deeper red here, but this is a pinkier colour here. And then look at all the different variations of green. So you've got darker blues, and this is more yellowy greens here. This is a purpley, bluey purple, but this is a pinky purple. These are deep greens, and that's a touch of blue with a little bit of green maybe in it. That's more yellow. So it's so important to learn your colours. And also, we've also got, don't forget, we've all got different companies. So, for example, I got De La Rowney Artist Quality. These will vary to the De La Rowney Student Quality as well. You've got different makes like Mission as well, which actually have a lot more pigment. Other companies like Derwent. So we've all got different companies use different types of paint, and your cadmium red might differ slightly from mine. So do your own color mixing. So this is primarily about mixing secondary colors. And so I've done a little chart here with a basic range of different reds, different blues, and different yellows. So I basically use lemon yellow, which is the more acidic yellow, cadmium yellow, which is the more orangey red yellow, raw sienna, or you can use a raw yellow ochre, which is the mustardy yellow. And this is actually Naples yellow, which is more of an opaque, buttery yellow as well. Here we've got cadmium red, which is the orangey red, which is similar to cadmium yellow, alizarin red, which is purpley red, permanent rose. I have to say, I thought I had actually bought rose madder, but apparently I hadn't. It's permanent rose, so that's very a pinky red. And this isn't going to be an interesting one. This is light red, and you'll see a lot of watercolor artists, landscape artists using light red, a little touch in the sky. It's similar to burnt sienna, which is the orangey brown. And I thought I'd put it in there because it's named light red. And so you would think, oh, light red and a blue, make purple. I think you might find that those are going to be slightly muddier. And that's why it's really important that you do these mixing exercises so you actually discover and really find out what colors make the best mixes for you. So we're going to start off with the orange mixes first. If you want a really, really bright orange, you want to mix two colors that lean towards the orange. You've got bright red, cadmium red, and a bright yellow, which is an orangey yellow here. And then, so, sorry about the state of my palette, cadmium yellow, cadmium red. And to make orange, you want more yellow than red, because red really is the dominant color. Okay? And also what's really good idea to do, if you've given yourself enough space, you can mix different shades. So do you see that this same color mix, but that has got more of the cadmium yellow and that has got more of the cadmium red. Also, if you add more pigment, you will get obviously a more solid, brighter color, and the more water you add to it, the lighter that it will get. We're going to go along. Cadmium, we've got the cadmium yellow, which I've just used. Can you see the difference between the cadmium yellow and the lemon yellow? That's the acidic yellow. So I'm going to mix with a tiny touch of the cadmium. And what you will find is that lemon yellow is more acidic, and it therefore leans more towards, it's got more of a greenish tinge in it, so it's not such a great carrier. So you're basically mixing color. Sorry, I'm fiddling here. One color that leans towards, this was what happens when you mix too much red. Don't mix one color that leans towards orange and one yellow that leans towards green, you get a orange. Slightly softer. And again, with the mustard yellow, just to remind students, but it's either raw sienna or yellow ochre. So must be a little bit more opaque and a little bit softer. And so the important thing is that what you're learning is that if you don't want a really, really bright color, bright orange, one of these mixes. And if you want a really, really bright orange, then obviously you mix the cadmium red with an orangey red with an orangey. Now let's see what happens when we mix which is a purpley red. So what do we got here? We've got a purpley red. So that you can see that does not veer towards, does not have an orangey effect in it. It has more of a purpley effect. And then you've got the yellow cadmium yellow, which is more orange before it dries, and you can get some really beautiful dried really quickly. See the effect that it is a softer orange again with lemon yellow. This could be used in sunsets or softer colors. Now this alizarin and raw sienna, this is the mix I usually use for skin tones, Caucasian skin tones. People, for a lot of artists, either use raw sienna or yellow ochre. Tiny touch of alizarin as part of their Caucasian sort of skin mix. See why? Because you can dilute that and sort of you've got those sort of soft colours in. You don't want to be using that on skin tones, do you? That would be going for actual oranges or flowers or whatever you like. But this one, can you see the difference in tones that you can get? So we're going to work down here, and then we're going to go on to but it's so important for you to do these little charts. And actually, I know some of you probably go, oh, really, do I have to do a colour chart again? You can look at a colour chart book. You can look at those colour wheels all you like, but there is nothing that beats doing this for yourself. Nothing. And actually, it's very relaxing. Next up is purple. Blue and red make purple, but look at all the different reds you can get. The different types of blue. I was going to try and fit in the Prussian blue, but I can't. But this is actually just a very small variations on my color. You might have a lot. So you could do a whole sheet. If you've got loads of different blues and loads of different reds and so forth, then try them all out. I'm just kind of showing you today what can be done. If you want to write the red purple that goes to lean out of these, goes to the purples, leans towards tones, would be alizarin red and the permanent rose. Can you see how much more orangey that is? That's got an orange tone in it. Orange does not, you don't find orange and purple, do you? So first of all, we're going to go with the alizarin red. Going to look up here between cerulean, cobalt, and ultramarine, which there goes towards more of a purple. This clearly is turquoisey, has kind of more yellowy, greeny tones in it. That's not going to be good in purple, is it? So that here, cobalt goes either way. It's kind of a snowy color. Ultramarine very much goes towards the purple bias. So we're going to mix a little bit of alizarin and a little bit of marine. And you can see a really deep purple. Now, if I diluted that, you can see that that's coming out in a really lovely clear purple. We use the alizarin, still get a nice purple. And alizarin with the cerulean leans towards more of the greeny yellow stratosphere. You will get more tone. See that? The difference? Now, if you want a really bright purple that's for flowers, or you know, you're for a sunny day or something like that, then these are the colors to use. If you're looking for, say, shadows or something, you don't want a bright purple. You want to know that you're using a cooler purple. So you would maybe go for an alizarin, which is a good carrier purple, leans towards the purples, and maybe the cerulean as well. The thing is, if you mix bad carriers, so you've got an orangey red here and a greeny to make blue, this all be quite a bit stronger. It's kind of a dirtier purple. Again, can be good for shadows. Personally, for shadows, I'd pick a good sort of a good mix for purple and maybe not so good. So maybe mix the alizarin with the cerulean, or maybe the cadmium with the cobalt. So we'll try that. White is a little bit more lighty here. So cadmium orange, cadmium red, orangey reds, and you're mixing which goes towards the purple. It's not going to be as bright as this. Can you see the difference between the alizarin mixed with the ultramarine and the cadmium red? Because cadmium red is quite so it can dominate being mixed with the ultramarine. The more blue you mix with it, and you can touch cadmium to kind of tone it down as well. So then we're going to go very quickly onto the permanent rose, and I'll mix the light red. So this is going to be interesting. I'm just going to video it without commentary, but you'll see that this is going to be quite sort of muddy because you've got sort of orangey tones in here as well. But we'll see, because it might be good for sort of landscapes and shadows. Last but definitely not least, we are on to the greens. Now, you will have greens in your palette. You will have them in the tube. We'll go on to touch on that a little bit later. But the best way to mix a green is not from the tube. It's to actually mix it yourself. So if you want a bright green, it's exactly the same principles. So you've got the lemon yellow. If you want a really bright green, you go for colors that lean towards rather than the oranges. So obviously cadmium yellow carries orange, as we said. The lemon yellow is acidic, so it goes towards the greens. Cerulean, can you see the difference? It's more turquoisey, so there's more of a greeny in it. That cobalt and ultramarine goes towards more of the purple. You want a really bright green. Put down the yellows first for the lemon. Yep, cerulean. And there you have your really bright summery or spring greens. If you want to tone that down a bit, lemon yellow, but maybe add a touch of still summery, still spring, but a little bit more natural. Tone it down again. Cobalt, ultramarine. Now, can I just say, I'm just mixing straight color. You can mix this in so many different variations. So, for example, I could add more water to make it lighter and more translucent. I could add more pigment and make it thicker. Don't necessarily want to do that. We are working with watercolor, but you can make it stronger again. Now I am going to mix. This is a Prussian blue. Prussian blue is more of a turquoisey blue, again more in the family of cerulean. Now do be careful with Prussian blue. I'm using De La Rani artist quality, so that's why it's quite dark. It's a lot of pigment. Prussian blue is more of a bully boy color. It's a lovely color, absolutely adore it, but be careful, it's very strong. This, can you see that going into the more of the cerulean family? If I put a little bit more color into, you're getting more of a jade color. Then we're going to do the same with so cadmium has got that orange quality to it. So you wouldn't necessarily mix that. If you want a bright one, a more natural green, as we said, a good carrier like cerulean with something like more of an orangey sort of tone, it tones the green down a little bit. If you mix two bad carriers like a cobalt or ultramarine with, it starts getting a little bit murky. And actually, these are the colors that actually become more naturalistic. And this is why it's so important to mix your greens, because you might want these in the shadow areas, or if you're doing hedgerows, or and also think about the seasons. These are more summer, spring. We're heading towards autumn, winter now. More of a mossy color, really. And then, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the cadmium yellow, more toned down than the one. Just going to show you very quickly before I go on to whiz on to show you about the greens from a tube, but I'm going to mix the either raw sienna or yellow ochre. Those are the mustard yellows, and also show you the mixes with Naples yellow, which are good for highlights, and it's very opaque, and it'll be interesting for you to see the difference. You might not have, you'll have lemon yellow and cadmium yellow. Those should be a staple, but really try different colors. I'm not asking you to get any of these colors. Raw sienna obviously is a very good one to have, and yellow ochre, but we will all have different colors, so try those out as well. So I finished all the different colors, and you can see the difference between, this is the raw sienna, which is the mustardy colored yellow. Here, I put some light on the subject so you can really see the colors. This is very interesting. This is Naples yellow. It's opaque. It's very chalky. Very good for sort of sunsets and the highlights and as well. But you can see the sort of the misty qualities that you can get with this. But, I mean, just look at all those different shades of different tones of colour. So you've got all different greens that are very lush or bright vegetation, depending on if you're in some hot country or sort of summertime or springtime. And then you've got these are sort of winter, autumn, or sort of in the shadows. Again, it is the same. as with these purples. And don't forget, I looked at these permanent rose has got more purple qualities, like the alizarin red. They really make some beautiful jewel-like purples across here. But now look at the light red. I mean, you would think, oh, light red, that's, you know, it's not necessarily what it says on the packet. It seems very similar to burnt sienna to me. So it's sort of a maroon quality, but you can see mixing the blues with that as well, that has more of, you know, for the shadows, that's very cold, you know, brickwork. Great colours though. And again, with the oranges, the bright oranges of the cadmium red and the cadmium yellows. And then you've got tonal downs, these softer oranges here. Good for skin colours with the raw sienna and the alizarin. And then look at the light red here. Again, you've got less bright orange, is more toned down. So you need to try. You won't have maybe all my colors, all the colors exactly that I'm using, and this is exactly the same that you will find with any instruction book or any video that you're looking on. Somebody might be using a cadmium yellow, but you might have a cadmium yellow from a different company with a different sort of structure or different, more pigment or less pigment in it. So you really need to do this for yourself to try out your. This is the important and also an important color thing that I just wanted to discuss for you. You can obviously get oranges and purples from the tube, and that's perfectly fine, but I'm just going to focus on some different colors from the greens, because people seem to hate mixing greens. I've got an olive green here. I've got terra vert, which is a sort of what it says on the packet, olivey green. Terra vert, which is a dark evergreen, which actually I like. It's the closest one I'm ever going to get to literally taking it out of a tube. You've got sap green, which is more of a sort of a brighter green, not so naturalistic, and viridian green, which is really jade and people have a lot of problems with. Do not throw that viridian green out. It's really excellent for mixing. For example, I'm not going to do it here, but viridian, I live in Wales, obviously, and for viridian with a little touch of Payne's grey in it, perfect for the Welsh sea, or for any cold sea, basically. So what I want you to do is then you take your tubes or pans of greens, and you can, what you want to try a bit of, ones I've actually got myself enough space here, but anyway, you can get the difference. So you can mix a little bit of lemon yellow in, and that'll make it really, really bright. You can mix a little bit. You can try. So what I'm saying is try out yellows. Actually, I'm going to try raw sienna. See if that tones it down. I'm getting an olivey green, actually. I told you it was a good mixer. And then you've got the sap green. Quite bright. Bear with me. My cadmium yellow just got contaminated with some runaway Prussian blue, as you can see. I'm not very organized on my palette, apologies. And so you can try some lemon yellow and a little bit of raw sienna. So you've got, this is, you know, see the different tones actually coming together. Now terra vert is actually one of my favorite tubes, only because it has a very rich evergreen color to it, and it's probably for me one of the most natural. But you still need to mix something slightly with it. So, you know, don't forget, I'm just mixing actually yellows. But if you've got a bright mix browns or blues with it, if you want to actually tone down a bright green, you can mix a little bit of the complementary colour. Sorry, I'm not concentrating. Really not concentrating, because you just picked up the olive green. Terra vert, where are you? Okay. Goodness, this is drying quickly again. Hold on. And you can see it just lift it up a little bit. It actually brings, it brings colours, different colours, and it's just not just a solid green mass. And then last but not least is the olive green. And this is a nice green. But, I mean, you don't have to add a lot. I mean, if you like the colour, you can just add a little to lift it or give it some depth. So I've added the raw sienna. It's not that much difference, but you can actually see that it's added a little bit more depth to it. So let me just see if I can draw this pan back. And there you have it. So mixing to make secondary colors, and look at all those beautiful variations. It's such a good idea to actually do this. And as I said, yours won't come out the same as mine because we'll all have different colors. So just take some time at home and really, try to add variations. You can make it bigger than this, and you can add certain variations. You could add a little bit more water, as I've done here, and going to the darker areas with a more pigment here. I didn't leave myself enough space. It's pretty much straightforward, just sort of one color. But you can, you can see all the different variations. And for example, some of these purples, you'll have a more bluey purple if you add a bit more blue. The balance of color is really important. The balance is be a more yellowy orange or a more orangey, reddy orange, depending on the colors that you use. The greens, though, are especially important. Also, maybe the purples for shadows, because if you want a purple shadow, just don't mix a bright purple, because sometimes that can come out like a Belisha beacon, unless of course you're doing a summer painting. And also think about the seasons and the colors in your actual, what is compatible with your picture. So I hope you enjoy, and I look forward to seeing your results.